Thursdays, Races and Events is presented by eDragonTees.com, the premier company for your t-shirts, your banners, hats, flyers, embroidery, web design, and yes, even your koozies for your beverages. Online at eDragonTees.com. That's eDragon, Tees.com. Oh, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is your USA Cycling Rule of the Week. We're going to be covering 1J7, racing numbers, paragraph B. Riders shall place their numbers as prescribed by the race director or officials and in such a way that they are visible when the rider is in a racing position. When shoulder numbers are provided for cyclocross, they are worn on the upper arm to be visible from the front. Hip numbers shall be attached securely at least at the four corners, and no accessory or hair may obstruct a clear view of the number. If shoulder or frame numbers are provided, they too shall be placed as prescribed. Numbers may not be folded, trimmed, or otherwise defaced. Again, numbers may not be folded, trimmed, or otherwise defaced. This has been your USA Cycling Rule of the Week, 1J7, paragraph B. So, yeah, we're listening to the playback. We got Gary Brimmer, the coach of all coaches, in the studio. Let me turn this off. We know we're live on the air right now. So, this is Mark with iSpeakForYou.net. You can follow us online, iSpeakForYou.net. I think I just said that. And, of course, on Twitter, iSpeakForYou. We're all about equality here. Gary will tell you that as he comes on the microphone. Women and men should be, in my opinion, should be paid the same.
I agree.
Should be treated the same.
I agree.
And obviously should be respected the same.
I agree.
So, because there's a lot of ladies out there that are not getting paid what they should be paid because they're working just as hard as the guys are. And Coach, I know you're going to say this. Of course, I'm going to let Gary introduce himself, but you can follow him online at GaryBrimmer.com. And, of course, I always mess this up for your Twitter, but go ahead, Gary.
Twitter is GBrimmer1. And my email is CoachGaryB@gmail.com.
There you go. So it's a big week. Obviously, the races and events this week is presented by eDragonTees.com. That's TEES.com. Eric and his crew did an incredible job, made some banners for us, and I can't wait to pimp those out this weekend at the mountain bike races. But, Gary, we were just talking about off online that there are some young ladies that are coming up in the running world, as there are in the cycling world and triathlon world, that people really need to watch. I mean, I know they're watching Mary Kane. She did a great job and a great race this past weekend, but there's another young lady that's coming that is hot on her heels.
Yes, a young lady out of Camas, Washington, Alexis. I don't know if I can pronounce this right.
Give it a shot.
Efraimson. She is a junior in high school. She's won the Nike High School National Cross Country Championships, not to be confused with the Foot Locker cross-country championships, but she won the Nike Cross. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, it's tough. She's a very, very tough, strong-minded runner. She was out of the race a couple times and came back and actually won on a monster kick. She just broke Mary Kane's 3,000-meter track record a few days ago. She went 9:16, and Mary had ran 9:06. So there's not very many high school boys in San Antonio that can go that they can go 9:35 for 2 miles. And they got high school junior doing that. So that's a girl that she was on some people's radar after cross country, but she's definitely on people's radar now after doing that. She did that in a combined pro and open women's race. She was in a fast field and got towed along. I believe when I read it was about a 30-second PR for her.
That's crazy because obviously what we want to do is we want to grow our sports.
Correct. We
want to grow them, and one of the things we need to do is obviously take care of our juniors. Like in cycling, they've got junior gears where they can't push an adult gear, I will say, just to save their legs or knees, the physiques kind of thing, and that's and their bone structure, which is really good. Now, for our junior runners, I mean, and you and I have talked about this a lot, there are some ladies that we both have seen that I know personally that are 13 and under that are running 126, 127 half marathons, and like I said, they're 13 and under. Now, how, and you being a coach, how does that affect them in the long run?
Well, first of all, I don't think that there is anything positive that a high school and younger runner can get out of running or trying to race a half marathon. The young men and women that attend my summer camp, they all know my thoughts on this. We talk about it throughout the summer because everybody here in San Antonio wants to take part in the rock and roll half marathon. Everyone does, and that's understandable. But when you're, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, when you're coaching a young high school, junior high, male or female, you're trying to teach them to concentrate for the duration of their event. And for most of these kids, we're talking, if they're 800 meters, it's under 3 minutes for a male or female, under 2 minutes for a male, most males, 220 and under for most good high school females, 5 minutes, 6 minutes for the mile, 10 minutes and under, or 12 minutes and under for girls for 2 mile. And so that you teach them to concentrate and to engage in the race. When you're sending a young man or young woman out there and they're trying to engage in a race that's an hour and 20 to an hour and 35, hour and 40 minutes, some of these kids don't have the maturity to go out there and engage properly and race properly for a race of that distance and for that length of time. I will, and I have allowed and encouraged kids to go out and do the half marathon if they do it as a workout. In fact,
because you've done that. I mean, you've got one of the fastest kids in the country in your stable, and he did rock and roll, but he did it. He didn't do it at race pace. He just went out there for a training run.
We had, if anyone would have saw me and my crew running Rock and Roll San Antonio this year, I had probably 20 high school boys running with me. These are high school boys that can run a lot faster than me, over 5K, and they all ran with me or ran a certain pace, and they all did fine. Some of them ran their fastest half marathon ever, and it was like a training run because I held them back.
Right.
Normally what happens, a young high school boy will go out and try to race the first 2 miles, and they realize, oh, crud, I have 11 more miles to go, and it gets really ugly. So now coming back to a young lady, 12 or 13 years old, 11 years old, while it's cute, while it's impressive, while it's motivation for a lot of us to see, wow, that young little girl can go out and run an hour and 27 for a half marathon, I should be able to get off the couch and go out and run a half marathon. That's one thing. And the other thing, you don't see very many pre-high school young ladies running as fast as they run super fast when they're prepubescent, continue to improve and run as well once they get through puberty. There's a laundry list of names of girls who ran super, super fast. Right. In junior high, and they maybe freshmen.
Oh, yeah. You got Natalie Nalepa. You've got,
Well, but there's also these girls that do it. Parents get all excited. Moms and dads get websites for them, have everyone follow their, and they get into high school and they reach puberty, and it's a whole different ball game, and then they actually slow down. There's actually a mentor of mine, a man that I follow almost religiously, is Jay Johnson, Coach Jay Johnson. He has an article, a blog post about how you help talented female athletes get through what he calls the Philly funk. It's just there's a season where they go through puberty and they actually start slowing down.
Right.
You can help get them through that. I have two, a freshman and an 8th grader going through that right now, and we're getting through it only because I know it's coming. I've prepared mom and dad.
Right.
This is coming, and here's how we have to deal with it. When it comes, everyone, okay, we were expecting
because
this.
not only is their body changing, but psychologically, obviously, the young ladies are changing too. And they're going, hey, I used to run a 20 minute 5K, and then now I can't even get under 25. What's going on? And then they get depressed, and they're like, you know what, I don't feel like I want to do this anymore. Right. But you're like, hey, just wait, it'll happen.
I always cite an example. When I was in high school years ago, there was a young girl in one of our arch rival high schools, was 4th in the state as a freshman, was 8th in the state as a sophomore, was 30th in the state as a junior, and wasn't even running by the time she was a senior. And you could put her side by side and see the progression of her body changing and the frustration. I don't think she was too frustrated after her sophomore year, but I remember middle of sophomore year for track is when things really just started to crumble for her. She had a younger brother and 3 older brothers that were superior runners, all ran for University of Michigan.
Right.
And so there's a lot of pressure from the family going, what's going on with you? So these things happen. And so you got to figure out a way to deal with it. So.
I just heard we're out. Can't hear me on there. I can hear you on the air. We'll figure this out. So anyway, we got a lot of things coming up, folks. We're going to play a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back with the Army Marathons. Ed Bandis is going to call in. And if you have any questions, you can email us at info@ispeakforyou.net, or if you're following us on Twitter, or excuse me, on Spreaker, there's a little chat button on there. Chat with us live. Post your questions to Coach Gary Brimmer. You can follow him online at GaryBrimmer.com. And, of course, this is Mark with ispeakforyou.net. Thursdays, Races and Events is presented by eDragonTees.com, the premier company for your T-shirts, your banners, hats, flyers, embroidery, web design, and yes, even your koozies for your beverages. Online at eDragonTees.com. That's eDragon, Tees.com.